Now through May 31st, get access to 7 of our most popular products, spanning from crypto recommendations to free stock picks, completely free for your first 7 days. No credit card required, cancel anytime. See for yourself why more than 1 million people love Stansberry Research. Simply visit trystansberryresearch.com.
Hi, this is Daniela Cambone. Welcome back to Stansberry Research. Well, we know how the story goes. The Federal Reserve has done its first 50 basis points rate hike in 22 years, showing that the central bank now means business in its fight against inflation. Also, starting on June 1st, the Fed will begin to reduce the size of its balance sheet, i.e. conduct quantitative tightening. Here to give us the lowdown and break it down for us is E.B. Tucker, author of Why Gold, Why Now? E.B., always good to be with you. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So, want to talk the Federal Reserve with you because the last time you were on, you said
there used to be this thing called the Taylor rule. And if they were to get back to the Taylor rule, which was 20 years ago, they'd have to have 40 rate hikes. Not going to happen. I mean, if they even have more than one quarter point rate hike, the whole system will freeze up.
Here we are now, EB, raising rates in a way that we haven't seen since the 1980s.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, half a percentage point, and you would think that it's the biggest news on Wall Street. I mean, every single day you got all these Fed governors out there saying this and that, this and that. They've only raised interest rates half a percent. Now, I want to ask you something. Have your costs gone up more than 0.5%? I mean, so yeah, that's right. So what you see is nothing has actually happened. Behind me, you probably can't see, but I see the funds rate is 75 basis points. That's 0.75%, not even 1%. Everywhere I go, prices are up 10%. So what you see is we're not in a capitalist system, okay? In a capitalist system, the people that save the money decide the interest rates. What we're in is a centrally planned economy. It's a command economy. And so every week that the Fed comes out with 7, 8 speakers, governors talking about things to telegraph what they're going to do. So what they're doing is they're controlling the narrative. This is a narrative-driven economy. I know that's hard for people, but you have to understand something. It's kind of like if you have a drinking problem and you tell your family, I'm definitely going to quit drinking in 3 months. I'm definitely going to do it. And here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to drink only natural wines, and that's my plan, and I'm going to tell you all about it so that you're so tired of hearing about it, you actually think I've already stopped drinking, okay? That's the deal. So the rates have not gone up. The rates are less than 1%, but there's a lot of drama. And so what the Fed's trying to do is strengthen the dollar. That's what they want to. They don't care anything about inflation. Like, I hate to tell you something. No one cares about inflation and about helping you. No one's here to help you. There's going to be no help, okay? All they're going to do is distract you. What the Fed wants to do is strengthen the dollar. So all these countries, when the Russia situation goes on, they were walking away from the dollar. You see Saudi and China, they're all trading oil and what? Okay, so the Fed says, uh-oh, if this happens, the whole Western system collapses. So we got to strengthen the dollar. So how do you strengthen the dollar? You create a dollar shortage. That's what's happening right now. The dollar's getting stronger against every other currency.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up because my next question to you is why the strength of the dollar? Because usually, especially on the onset of a tightening cycle, we see the reverse. We see a weaker dollar.
Yeah.
So why has the script been flipped?
Okay, they have to protect this. So the dollar is like walking around with a baseball bat, okay? And what they do with this baseball bat is they club people that don't go along with the plan, okay? So if you're a small country and you say, you know what, I'm sick of these U.S. sanctions, all this stuff, I'm going to start trading in Yuan. The U.S. says, and tries to club you with this dollar bat. But the problem is the bat turned into like a piece of bamboo, and then it turns into like a piece of balsa wood. You can't even hurt someone with it. They have to strengthen it. So the Western system is only as strong as the ability to force people to use the dollar. And that came under pressure. But here's the thing people have to understand. The Fed's in a difficult situation because if you strengthen the dollar for too long, then the debt system starts to come unglued because then people can't pay their debts. You're going to see this happening in the summertime. That's why I don't think this narrative, this talking about interest rates, I'd like people to refer to it as talking about raising interest rates, okay? Not actually raising interest rates. It's like talking about stop drinking instead of stop drinking. So that's what's happening, because I bet you they don't get past June before everything is rattling. You notice in the market, Bitcoin, everything trades together because they pump this thing up so big, $300 trillion of financial assets. And then if you start to come down at all, I talked about this in my book, even the slightest decrease in size and everything starts to rattle. Okay, so you look, mortgage rates 5.25. People say, I can't afford a house anymore. Oh, what? So the only way you could afford a house is with a 3% loan? I mean, what kind of world is this? So if you notice, this is a tough spot for the Fed. Strengthen the dollar to protect it, but then not too far, or else the system caves in.
So it's interesting. They want to give if I'm understanding you correctly, they want to give the illusion that, hey, inflation is our number one focus, but it's really not. Strengthening the dollar is really numero uno, but they don't necessarily want you to know that they're doing this.
They actually need to have inflation, because if inflation is 10% and the federal funds rate is less than 1%, that means that if you have money saved up, you're losing 9% per year. That means all the things that you buy are going up in price by 10%. And the money that you have saved is only earning just less than 1%. Right. So if you can keep that up, the debt that was issued over the last 10, 20 years becomes easier to pay off. Okay, it's kind of like what they realize is that your state of mind as an American, the psychology, the state of American mental health is dependent on the value of your house, primarily, and secondly, the value of your 401k, and third, the value of your Bitcoin. But basically, you've got to keep these things steadily going up, because you continue to borrow from your house like a bank machine, and slowly over time it goes up. I mean, someone told me last weekend the number one way to create wealth is to buy a home. And I said, really? I mean, are you creating wealth? No. The home is getting more expensive and you're turning it into a bank machine and pulling money out of it, and it's easier to pay the money back because the money gets cheaper. See, we don't really make anything in the US. We're in a big financial game. And if you don't understand that you're in a financial game, you're going to lose the game. That's the problem, is people ask me all these questions about what stock do I buy? I'm like, listen, you got to understand something. You're a rat in a maze. If you don't understand that you're a rat in a maze, then you're just worried about the maze. But you don't understand what's going on.
But my question to you is, well, how do you get ahead of the game? If you get the game, if you realize it's a game, how do I get on top?
You watch the narrative. Instead of literally believing what comes out in the news, that each thing that comes along that's a big deal, you can barely keep up with the narratives nowadays. I mean, you stand for Ukraine. You never even heard of the place 6 months ago, but you're wearing a T-shirt now. I mean, everything that comes up is you're being bombarded with new instructions. Do you notice this? I'm not going to repeat them all because people are very emotional, but every 4 to 6 weeks, there's a new thing that's a really big deal, and that you have to be for this, or else you're on the outs, okay? So this keeps you very, very distracted. Everyone is extremely distracted, okay? I want you to go somewhere without your phone, and I want you to look around and look at every single person is on their phone. And what are they seeing on their phone? Instructions about what to think. This is a huge problem. And then they say to me, well, what do we do? Okay, well, turn your phone off. That's number one, okay? You don't need constant media distracting you from what's going on, because I see this happening. You watch the narrative. The Fed, at some point, when the pain is good enough for them, they've strengthened the dollar enough, is going to come out and say, we're going to support the system. And the stocks are going to go up like, NASDAQ go up 1,000 points in a day.
Your point about being distracted with the news headlines and we just react, right? It's not even just financial news, but you see the headlines like, 3 people died in Bahamas. We don't know the source, whatever. They've been poisoned. It's like, okay, you can't go to Bahamas anymore. Oh, now there's kids are getting hepatitis at a faster rate. Okay, we can't take our kids to the parks or anywhere anymore.
Panic.
We're just reactionary, and complete panic all the time.
Yeah, you're a rat in a maze, and the people starting the narrative know that, but you don't know that. You're worried about the next corner in the maze, but you miss. It's kind of like when people say you're in the forest and you're worried about one tree, but you don't know that you're in a forest. It's the number one most important fact for you to realize that you're in a
Yep.
forest. So people
Yep.
can't see this. And so
Yep.
you've got, first of all, to calm down, turn all this stuff off, and you've got to settle yourself, because you also, the other thing that goes along with this, number one thing I hear from people, anxiety. It's self-induced. You're worried because you're worried, and then you're so worried, and the next thing that comes up, you're worried about that. And so people are in this cycle, and then they think they're gonna make some money. I mean, how are you gonna do that? It's not even. I'm surprised some of these people are alive. Like, how did they made it this far? So you got to settle yourself down. This is really simple. You're in this big debt-based system. It's a perpetual boom. What I'm going to have to tell you is very important. This is a perpetual boom with the occasional crisis. Okay? You're in this long-term inflationary debt-fueled boom. It's not going to end until it explodes, which is not going to happen anytime soon. And you have these crisis events. Think about it. The COVID situation, the stock market lost a third of its value in like 2 or 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, the Fed comes out and says, we're going to buy junk bonds. What? We're going to buy junk bonds and stabilize the system and give everybody checks and all this stuff. Boom. It kicks off this gigantic rally. The U.S. markets were worth 25 trillion. Then they were worth 50 trillion. Okay. Yeah. So you got to see this. Now what you're doing, you went from 55 trillion to 45 trillion. You've come down maybe 15, 18%. You're probably going to go a little more, because the Fed needs everybody to stop. The liquidity's coming out, right? So you have to have everybody a little afraid. Okay, wait a minute. What do we do? Oh my God, I got to sell. This is weak hands. I'm looking at it right now with my stocks. It's unbelievable. You have small retail traders puking, and then you have smart long-term investors buying. So which one do you want to be? Do you want to be a weak hand, or do you want to be a small hand? Once you see this, you can play this game just as good as the Fed can play it.
I mean, let me ask you this, because I've had so many, viewers come up to me, maybe elderly, who have just lost millions in the S&P and NASDAQ, asking, does it come back? Please tell me it's going to come back in my lifetime. I need to make this money back.
But wait a minute. I thought index funds always went up. I thought buying a house was the best way to make money. You see all these things people believe, but then when it doesn't work, then they're just bamboozled. Right. They're confused. I mean, see, what they were doing is they're buying Amazon and Facebook and tech and all these things. But you have to understand, all these things were dependent on 0% interest rate money from the Fed. It was all tied together because it's liquidity.
I think the company is going to go bankrupt now. Like, it's at $11 the stock. Peloton.
Wait a minute. Exercise bikes aren't a long-term investment? I can't believe it. So nobody thought about any of these things. And if you did think about it, people called you crazy. And now who's crazy? Because I got to tell you something. Gold's not doing so poorly, okay? Like, you own a bunch of gold and you own gold royalty companies. You're like, guys, I hate to tell you, but the storm is coming and I've got plenty of water. So I'm good. I got a generator.
Happy you brought that up, and then I'll circle back to the other question I have for you. But on the topic of gold, okay, this is a chart courtesy of Carter Worth over at CNBC. Well, when he pulled this up, it showed gold versus the S&P sits the dot-com peak of March 2000. And if you look at it, gold has basically literally lapped the S&P, EB, with dividends reinvested for 22 years. But no one talks about this. No one wants to talk about gold on Wall Street. But it has outperformed the S&P. Why no love from Wall Street?
If you start buying gold, then you ruin their system. So the problem is that gold is not part of their system. That's why when you own some gold, in my book, I talk about how much gold to own. Not very much, because it's not an investment. It's wealth. So when you take some of the money that you earn at your job and you buy a gold coin, that gold coin is permanently yours. No one can devalue that coin. So it blows up the entire narrative. Remember, we were talking about all these narratives that are constantly bamboozling everyone. Gold is real, hold in your hand wealth. The U.S. system doesn't really make anything anymore. Think about it. We don't produce anything. All we do is slowly and steadily borrow more, okay? And occasionally have a panic where the average person lets go of all their assets, worried that they're going to starve to death, and then 3 weeks later, we start the boom again. This is what people have to see. So gold, meanwhile, quietly sits to the side and does nothing except for protect your wealth. So people have to understand that. They get this wrong all the time. It's not an investment. You're not going to buy a gold coin and make 1,000 times your money like it's a pancake coin or something. It's not like that. It's not for that purpose. If you bought a gold coin in 1915, it has about the same real value that it has today. So if your ancestor bought that coin and handed it down through the generations, it buys you about the same thing it did then.
EB, to that point, folks like Max Kaiser see that as a negative to gold. Like he'll say to me, well, gold hasn't done anything in 10 years. It's the same price it was 10 years ago. They don't get it, right?
Right. Well, Max is really smart. So like Max gets some other things. Like Max has ways to create wealth that he's figured out. So it's like you're kind of getting one little snippet of what he says. But for the average person, gold is something that is very helpful to you because no one's looking out for you. No one at the Federal Reserve is looking out for you ever, okay? They're never going to help you. And if you don't believe me, name something they've done to help you in the last 20 years. They've done nothing, okay? All they're going to do is keep you confused, all right? And make this a scenario where by the time you figure out what's going on, it's too late. It's kind of like right now. They have you all panicked and they're going to raise rates, They're not going to do this. So you're panicking and you're doing things that are eroding your wealth, and the inflation is eroding your wealth. And you can't find one headline about gold. Not one. You go on this Bloomberg, it's like every single day, crypto, tech stocks, mortgages, all this stuff, borrow money. What's going to happen? Panic. Kathy Wood. It's all, every single article is about something that's within the narrative, nothing on gold.
What would you say is if their goal is not to protect us or care about us, what is their mandate? Who are they looking out for?
Protect the dollar-based system. Period. Without that, the place is a pile of rubble. You have to protect the US dollar because that is what gives you the ability to rule the world, to spread out over the world and put your hands down and control everything. If you lose that dollar, it's a huge problem. Everybody knows it. The Chinese know it. That's why they're creating a bilateral trading system with everybody they can. And we have to stop that. It's very important because we decide who does what. Remember, if we start war, it's good. If you start war, it's bad. Okay, that's the rules of the game.
How does the Fed dollar, which you and I have spoken about in the past, and the viewers love when we address this, how does that come in? How does that evolve into the US dollar keep strengthening? Does it add power eventually?
Yes, because what's going to happen is as soon as everybody finally gets woke to this, which is going to take a few more years, people are going to say, oh, wait a minute, this is a problem and I got to do something about it. And then as soon as remember, in the US, the number one enemy is its own people. If you don't believe it, think about it for a second. How does the IRS treat you? Like a criminal. How does TSA treat you? Like a criminal. Every single thing that's going on here, you're the enemy. So at some point when you decide, I better take some of these dollars and do something outside of the system, that's when FedCoin becomes really important. Because you're the enemy of our dollar system, and we need to track every single dollar that you have and make sure you're behaving yourself. And we'll tell you what to spend money on. This is a great idea. China loves this idea, by the way. The digital Yuan does this already. You can spend money on home improvements. You can spend money on food, okay? But you've been going out to dinner too much. And so no more leisure activities for you because your Facebook has a lot of statements that we have a problem with. So you'll be able to control every single dollar that's in the system. Your dollar already has a serial number. If you ever play liar's poker, look at the serial number on your dollar, okay? All you got to do is digitize that serial number, and then you control the whereabouts of everything. And how are they going to do it? Again, every single person has a computer in their hand that they can't stop looking at. They literally, from 5-year-olds all the way to 85-year-olds, people have an anxiety attack if their telephone doesn't work. So you don't need to chip people. You already have had them submit to tracking and total control. And so you digitize the money as the next step.
I want to get to some viewer questions now, EB. I had tweeted that you're coming on the show, and a lot of people wrote in some questions. So if you don't mind, I'd like to get to some. One is from Brett K here, and it's going back to the gold price. You know, as you know, investors frustrated. We get around 2,000 to only come back down. And the topic of manipulation has been going around, even Frank Juster tweeting about it. So the question is gold being manipulated, and who do you think is doing it? Is there funny business at play right now?
Okay. It's like this. The best thing I can tell you to do is to look at the nickel market. Now, Brett K might say, well, how do I do that? All you get, just Google search nickel market futures. Okay. The nickel market was being handled the same way as gold, and it's just not as big. And the system broke. And so you have to see what they were doing with nickel. It's the same thing that's going on with gold. You'll have a morning where gold goes down 20 bucks or 50 bucks or something. No gold actually traded, only gold futures. So it's contracts that track the price of gold. So in the nickel market, there was someone that was selling nickel relentlessly, just selling and selling and selling and selling. But Glencore and some other traders, some hedge funds said, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Somebody's selling more nickel than there is in existence. And so they started buying the nickel that was being sold. And the nickel price went to 10, 11, 12, 15, 18, boom, 50. And then what did they do? They closed down the nickel exchange and they canceled all the trades. And now no one is trading nickel because they don't trust it. Okay, with the gold market, you look at this, Brett K, I want you to do this. This is your homework. All you have to do, you can read about all this stuff. It's not spooky manipulation. There's not a guy behind a curtain that's playing with you and trying to take your money. What it is the gold price is set by the paper market. Okay, and what that means is that they sell 40 million ounces of gold, which is an unbelievable number, for 15 minutes in the morning. And then when the price is down, you can turn around and buy it back, and you've never actually traded any gold. So the gold price has got to be stable. If it goes flying higher, then people won't trust the dollar system.
I want to get through some more questions, but you just put an image. I pictured like Count Dracula behind that curtain.
Taking Brett K's money. You say, oh, there's Brett K. I'm going to take it. But it's not like that. That's why I'm saying the nickel market just happened. And it's if you can see that, then you see what's going on with gold.
Okay. We know your thoughts on the cryptocurrencies. You don't like them. You compare them to roulette table gambling. But this viewer wants to know, what are your thoughts on 100% gold or silver backed, fully audited crypto?
There's no point. Why would you want to take the gold coin in your safe deposit box and put it into the digital ecosystem? Why would you want to do that? And then people say, because then it's digital. Yeah, but look, the whole point of it is it's not digital.
Or they want to restore gold and silver as money.
That's never going to happen. So forget about it, because then the Fed guys have no ability to erode the system. You see how this is? Then the people with the savings determine the price of everything. So why are they going to let you do that? It's never going to happen.
Okay, next question. E.B. Tucker, how will President Biden bring back inflation, or the Fed, to 2% without dreaming?
Well, the inflation numbers are going to come down. So you're going to see in the next 4 to 6 weeks, the narrative is going to be that Superman Powell saved the day. Inflation comes down to 8 and 7 and 6 and 5, but it's not going to really be coming down, because you're going to go to the store, and remember, the cashier that went from $17 an hour to $18 an hour is not going to take a pay decrease. So all of these things are going to be part of your daily life, but the inflation headline numbers are going to go down. Now, just so you know, I think I told you this. I bought a nice car, another car, and I had to pay a fee to get the car. It's called a market adjustment. And technically, there's no inflation. So I paid full MSRP. Remember the sticker on the car?
Yes,
normally you negotiate down, but I paid full MSRP plus a $5,000 fee, which they said was a bargain. That car, okay, now that's about $25,000 more than I would have paid for that car 2 years ago. But there's no inflation because MSRP stayed the same. Do you see? This is how things work. And everybody's waiting for the headline. Oh, what is the Wall Street Journal going to say? The inflation? No, you do it yourself. You go to the store and see what's going on. But the headline is going to be inflation is under control. That's what the headline is going to be.
I would have loved to see you interact with that car salesman. Anyhow, some questions on Metalla. Why did EB recently sell 2,500 shares of Metalla if he was sure that his royalty company was going to the moon in 2022?
because if you notice, EB bought 3,100 shares of Metalla shortly a few days before and sold 2,500 shares of Metalla for tax purposes. Now, when the company pays me restricted stock, it's only fair for me to be able to have some of that to pay taxes. I think everyone can look and see that I've been a humongous buyer of this. I have a huge position. I can't even tally the number of times I've bought the stock. You can look it up yourself on SEDI. Now, let me make a point about this. The annual voting is about to happen for Metalla and for many other companies. And I think most people do not vote their stock. And this, unlike some elections, this is a vote where your vote really does count. And if you have one share of stock, you should get the materials that come in the mail, open them up, don't use them to start a fire, read them, and then see what you think about me and the other directors of every company you own. I mean, I do this. I've always done this. I own stock in like big oil company. I read all this stuff and I say, do I really want these people running my company? And it's not really about the stock price. It's about where's the company headed. You got to remember something. I own a ton of Metalla because I feel very, very comfortable with owning the stock, because if you were going to send me to space for a year and I could only own one stock, it would be Metalla, because I know exactly what that business owns. There's only 5 employees. The company has decades of exposure to other operating companies mining gold, and it doesn't have like a factory, nothing. I'm extremely comfortable. And then people say, well, what about the stock price? Okay, the stock price and the fundamentals are not tied together. That's what makes it fun, because when the stock price goes extremely low, okay, like Metalla's done 8 transactions in the last year and the stock price is lower. It's on sale. So if the car that I bought was, 25% cheaper, we would be excited. But in the stock market, it's different. People were paying 2 times plus net asset value for Metalla enthusiastically. And now when it's discounted, they're upset and they're puking. I see it every day. So are you going to be strong or are you going to be weak? That's the question.
Well, if you could just add a little more to that, because a lot of questions coming in about what's going on with Metalla's price, why the pressure?
Yeah, so what you have to see is that the company is now over 70 royalties. So when it started, it had 0. So it slowly over time bought all these royalties, which last for decades. I mean, these are permanent royalties on the entire mine site, and somebody else is going to do the work. I mean, like Pan American Silver is the one that's got to dig the tunnel and pull the material out of the ground, not Metalla. So Metalla's gone about buying all these things. And then now you have a situation in the market where across the board, royalty companies are not popular, which is bizarre because Gold Royalty Company is trying to buy its 5th other company now, right? Sandstorm and Nomad combined last week. The market didn't like that. So this musical chairs, there's almost no independent high growth royalty companies left, Metalla and Mavericks. That's it. Both of which share price seems to be in terminal decline. However, the business, I don't want to say that it can't fail, because of course anything can fail, but the business you have 5 employees. Like, all you got to do is you own these royalties forever. And so they're tied to a rising gold price. But here we are, gold price down, enthusiasm low, no royalty company support across the board. Nobody's excited about it. I know all the hedge funds in the business. Nobody's investing in a hedge fund that buys gold stocks. And so you're in this scenario where it's a desert. I mean, the only selling you have is average people that have a margin call or something and have to sell the stock immediately. And then the next guy says, I might as well sell too. This thing will go to 0. But the thing about it is, when you have these royalty companies, they don't have huge debt loads. They don't have overhead. They don't have a factory to run. They don't have inventory problems. They don't even have salesmen. All they have is the royalties, which is 1% or 2% of somebody else's effort. And I hate to tell you something. Costs are rising. Look at Barrick Gold, Newmont, all these companies. The gold price is doing great. The gold price is, if you ask Mark Bristow, is $1,800 gold good or bad? He'd say, pretty good. I mean, I got to tell you, like, we can run the mine for that.
Let me just get a lighthearted question in here, because why not? Toby Zaff is dying to know EB's favorite grocery store other than Whole Foods.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you. So I actually order food from a website called Dutch Meadows, which is a farm in Lancaster,
Ooh,
Pennsylvania,
okay.
and they ship me FedEx raw milk. This is unpasteurized milk. They ship grass-fed beef. They have extensive produce, gigantic. I mean, Lancaster, Pennsylvania is Amish country, so the
Yeah, of course.
soil there is not contaminated with herbicides and pesticides, and you should see the vegetables they have. I mean, they have radishes the size of a softball. So if you go on this website by Sunday night is the cutoff, and you put in your order, they FedEx you
Very
the
cool.
yeah, it's amazing. And
I'll
so
check
and
it
so
out. And
every
this is
other
not a
week,
sponsored ad from EB. This is unsolicited. Yeah.
they don't pay me any. In fact, I pay them. I mean, I have some other. There's another one I like in Oregon that sends me wild berries. They pick wild fruit from national forest land. So this is no pesticides, no fertilizer, nothing. And these berries have powerful antioxidants. And so I order them from a place in Oregon. But anyway, my point is that this guy's smart because I go to Whole Foods to get things that it's only sensible to get. They have really, I think it's a really good grocery store. And then,
Thank you.
and you know what else? One more thing. I read labels. So if you see me in the grocery store, which hopefully no one does, but I'm sitting there reading the back of
Yeah.
I read all the labels. And if there's things on there that I don't know what they are, I don't buy that. And I don't feed it to my family. That's for sure.
Nice. Absolutely. Same here. Okay, let's wrap with this. EB's book club, Forget Oprah. I want you to share with us a book that we were talking offline, and I just want to share it with the viewers that you like. But it really, plays into the bigger point I want to bring up about, using your time wisely, setting goals. You mentioned this in the last interview, and a lot of viewers really enjoyed your thoughts there.
Well, I have a book here called In Praise of Wasting Time. And the average person in corporate America would say that this is a terrible book. But the reason why I bought this book is because I already know the value of wasting time. Everyone would criticize me growing up for daydreaming and not focusing and can't you just sit down and do something? But I could never do it. And it took many, many years for me to figure out that it's a huge asset that I can't do that because the best ideas, your creative consciousness wakes up when you're wasting time. So put your phone down, go outside, take a walk, do something fun, do something that your mind is telling you, I really shouldn't do this. I shouldn't go over here and do the art museum now, or I should be focusing at my desk and work harder. But your mind wants to explore. And when you explore, that's when you get the best ideas. And those are the ideas that you look back on that change your life.
That's true. That is true. Absolutely true. E.B. Tucker. Wait, before I let you go, I know the comments are going to be like, wait, you guys didn't talk carbon credits? Hold on, it's coming. We will get to that in a completely dedicated segment, just not today. Right, E.B.?
That's right. And the carbon business is exactly like Metalla and Nova Royalty. It's a royalty business. We're very good at that business. It's going extremely well, and we'll have more.
Yes.
But that company is growing like crazy, and it's not EB running it, by the way. We have a really talented CEO that's running it that people are going to love. That's building that business. EB is helping the CEO by making introductions, putting him in front of people that he couldn't otherwise get in front of, and helping grow the business. The same as with Metalla. So people are going to see that these businesses rhyme together. There's something we do well. We're not out in left field doing something crazy. This royalty business, we know this. My book is about this. I mean, at the end of the book, I explain the royalty business. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's the best business in the world.
You can. So EB and we will work on something. So it's coming, folks. Just hang on. In the meantime, EB, you're great. Awesome. Love having you on. Come back anytime. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching. We'll have more awesome content coming your way. So be sure to stay tuned to Stansberry Research. And don't forget to sign up at danielacambone.com to stay on top of all the latest interviews coming your way. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.